everybody to this first exchange talk of the season. I'm Ailey Slattery and I'm chairing today's talk with Sue Cheesman. Thank you for joining us online and in person. First, a few housekeeping things. This is an unusual exchange talk as we're doing it in person and streaming it. So if you're joining online, please use the chat function to let us know if you have any technical problems. Shilpa, the Exchange Talks coordinator, will be monitoring that. At the end of Sue's talk, I'll be joining her for a bit of a chat and we'll also be taking questions. If you're online, you can put your questions in the chat as well, and Shilpa will be able to share those with us. Now, to introduce Sue, Sue Cheesman works in dance education in the Division of Education at the University of Waikato in Hamilton, New Zealand, within teacher education. She's also taught an inclusive dance class for Touch Compass Dance Trust, New Zealand, for many years. She's a teacher, researcher, and choreographer, both in New Zealand and previously here in the United Kingdom. Her research is centred on critical dance pedagogy in education, dance and disability, and her applied choreographic practice, particularly in relation to site-specific work. Publications are within teaching, teachers and curriculum, dance research, Aotearoa. I didn't pronounce that very well, Sue.
Aotearoa.
Thank you very much. Research in Dance Education, Journal of Dance Education, plus several edited collections such as Dance, Access and Inclusion. I am ready to hand over to you, Sue, and you can set off and we will chat later on down the journey.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome everybody. My talk is entitled Dancing Kites for Primary School Dance. I'm passionate about dance. It bit me by the bottom when I was 20 and when I was doing Otago University in a phys degree, and it's never let me go. I'm usually older than my students, probably by many moons. But I'm passionate about making a difference in dance. I think everybody should have a dance education. You know, I believe that everybody can dance. It doesn't matter if you're wiggling your finger or your head or winking, you can dance. So that's what I'm going to hopefully explain and explode into the space today. So I was hooked and took flight when I was 19, 20. I've been soaring and flying with the occasional crash landing for years with a philosophy that anybody can dance. So here's my kite flying kind of thing. So I kind of invite you to come on this journey. So that's me, educator, choreographer, researcher, University of Waikato, Hamilton, New Zealand. I've worked there for 19 years. I invite you to come with me, come fly on this dance kite journey to reflect on the process, how this works in applied practice in teaching and learning of dance within the field of dance education. Ride the ups and downs of kite flying and all the wobbles this engenders. So I'm going to think about my context. So the context that I'm taking it from today is that I teach on a BTeach program for primary students, and I've created these lessons around kite flying for them to try. First of all, for them to experience themselves and embody. I really believe that, you know, it's really important for students who are going out to be primary teachers to embody dance, to have a go, you know, in terms of what we're doing. These teacher trainees are in their second year of study, and they go out and teach this lesson in their respective schools to a variety of age groups. It's important that these lessons have been tried and tested, which I've tried and tested over the year. I've tried it with my students, they try it with their students, come back and feedback. And so I tweak it as we go along. I'm really a complete agreement with Maxine Green about imagination. I'm going to read this because I think it's important that you should read the slideshows. But yeah, without imagination, you live in a small room with the windows closed. Imagination opens the windows and shows us landscapes, horizons that we could not otherwise perceive. I want education to empower people to see possibility. And I want my students to be able to fly out the window, to soar, to dip, to dive, to be able to swoop and hover, and the occasional nosedive, because we all learn from those, dancing to see those possibilities that we wouldn't otherwise see. So I'm not interested in this is the one answer. This is the one way of doing it. There are many ways to do it in many ways, and one way might be better in this particular problem solving, but it's not necessarily the only way. So I'm not interested in step by note or end answers, right answers. There's no right answers in this. That's important to me. So I guess, I've talked about this is the kind of thing I want my students to do. Fly out the window, try possibilities. What can you learn? What do you know? What can you experience? What can you do differently? How can you do the exciting things in dance, which, we're all adrenaline junkies in terms of dance. That's what we are. It's that whole sense of body, and the body is smart. You can't value that high enough. So, results of 35 peer-reviewed papers have 6 characteristics of creative pedagogies, which I think is really important in the teaching I do. Generating and exploring ideas, trying those things, trying different possibilities, not getting stuck with this is the only way we're going to do it. Encouraging autonomy and agency. How can you encourage agency within your children? How can you encourage their ideas to spring forth? Playfulness and problem solving. I don't know about you, but in New Zealand, we've kind of lost that in the curriculum where, numeracy and literacy standards have drowned some of that out a lot. Risk-taking, safe risk-taking. What if? How can I try this possibility? Co-constructing and collaborating, and teacher creativity, which I think is really important as well. A teacher's going to be, sometimes I get, I've got children tried ideas and I go, I'm bored with that. I'm going to try something. And it might fall on its face, but I've tried it and rearranged it and come back to it. Right, what do I underpin all my thoughts and thinking with? I want to nourish the students to whet their curiosity, to really extend past what they know and bring on board what they know. So they don't chuck away what they know. They bring it on board and tweak it and experiment with it. I want to empower the students to communicate and dance. Use the smart body, journey, risk, move beyond. Encourage them to tolerate messiness and ambiguity. It's not, I'm going to do this. This is the steps. Finish. Change the channel. I'm not interested in that. Often children these days bored or they won't persevere. They don't persevere. They change the channel. I want them to try and dig deeper. How do you get into that? Dig deeper. What happens if you don't change the channel? How can you persevere to tolerate that? And because we don't know what who would know a pandemic would have come. In that way. So I'm interested in that, and I think that's really important in dance and in this world. Promote experimenting. I don't think it's open experimenting. I think they have steps or pegs to hang their ideas on, like a washing line. You have ideas or pegs that they've got a structure in, because really open-ended experimenting becomes powerless. What do I do, in my opinion? Support their choreographic endeavours. Oh, I like that because you showed me that again. Show me it bigger, bolder, brighter, better. What can we do? How can we do something slightly different? That's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. And I think it's really important as you as a teacher to go, whoa, that's a better idea than I had. Well, let's go that direction in that way. create a diverse range of movement vocabulary. I want to stretch their movement vocabulary. You know, how can you push? You know, how could you do this a little bit bigger? Could you put a turn into this? Maybe you could try this on the floor. You know, so you're stretching their possibilities of what they can do, which, you know, is important in this world because often children are couch potatoes. Yeah, we want to stretch possibilities through movement and through the body. Encourage in their creative journey as it unfolds with new possibilities, new journeys. How can I go down that tangent or that track road? Where does that lead me? Be okay to not knowing the end point. You know, this is kind of maybe not so much with primary school, but with secondary, they want to know the end point. You know, or they've been to the ballet school and they've got this phrase and they know exactly what the end point is. You know, tolerate that. Risk take stepping outside their bubbles. You know, children find it difficult at times to step outside their bubbles. Some children don't. Some children drum to their own tunes. And that's great. How can you encourage them to drum to their own tunes and go down that line? Collaborating, listening to others. Oh, yeah, you've got a good idea. Not, this is my idea, I'm not doing anything else. You know, collaborating, giving and taking in a lot of ways. And then opportunities to create their own moves and ownership of what they've created, which I think is really important. You know, it gives them value of what they've done. You know, it may not be new to you, but it may be new to them, which is really important to keep on board. How we going? We all right, everybody? All right, so I research ideas to build, you know, the dance lessons around. So after many blank moments, looking for ideas that open up a myriad of possibilities for dance and have potential to span across the range of ages from 5 to 12-year-olds, the idea of kite flying appeared to me. Okay, so kite flying in Maori terms is manu tukutuku, which also relates to matariki. So they have kite flying in matariki, which is the celebration of Māori New Year, which is linked to the Pleiades, the Pleiades stars in the sky. And so we now have a national holiday called matariki in the middle of the year in June, which is our winter. So this is fun. Well, it seemed to offer lots of possibilities for me to explore and provide rich content for dance lessons. I developed a bank of potential movement words around flying that could be built on, selected for all the ages. I used the dictionary and found as many as I could, buzzing with possibilities. I dance and explore a few words. So this is manu tukutuku, kite flying in terms of Māori, but I just want to delve into a little bit more on lessons and the lesson content that I have. So as I said, I plan the lessons, you know, across the ages, and the ideas permeate through and they get more difficult as the ages increase in terms of that. So usually I begin by introducing the idea of dancing kites with some very structured movement vocabulary activities which get more complex on students. The junior plans a series of activities around action words and verbs like shake and turn and swirl or dive or swish in that way. And then I get on to more complex sequences with senior children in terms of that. All right, so if wherever you are, stand up. So wherever you are, you can stand up or you can sit down, wherever you want to do. So we're going to draw a giant diamond kite in the air. So we're going to start up here. You might want to move over there. That's that. Let's start up here and we're going to go. Okay, ready? And you can make a sound as well. So that's what I would do for our, oh yes, so do it small. Do it like this if you need to. Yeah. So that's the beginning of our diamond kite. So I would do that with young children, and then I would go and this would be front, I do it here, and then I do it at the other, so they have to face this way, and different children are near me. Then I do it at the back, different children near me, and then I do it at the side, different children near me. And then I come back and say, I've done my kite shape. Who's got a good kite shape that you could make? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, freeze in your kite shape. And then I'm going to go, oh, I like that one. Let's all copy this one. Or let's all copy this one. Or let's all copy this one. But with increasing age, so I would do this. 360. 360. So you're making it more complex. That's, probably year 4, 5, something like that. And then for older children, I add on the box kite. So the box kite is you step a little bit forward with your right foot. You lean out and you've got your 2 shafts here, and you go down and you clip the kite off, make your box kite up, make your box kite. Yep, so we go down and up. Yep, so we put the 2 together. Yeah, it's a small because you're short. All right, so we're going to go. Step, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so we put 2 of those kites together, and then after that, I get them to jump to a different direction, and they have to face a diagonal, which is more complicated to do the whole thing, and we do it as 360. Okay, you can sit down now. So that's just a little bit of showing you how I might scaffold it from younger children to older children with kite shapes. And obviously I've got photos of the kites and things like that. You saw the one at the beginning. And then I've got also the box kite. So I use those kind of things for that. With lilies also, I go S's for swooping and swirling down to the earth. R is for rising up high. F is for flying high in the sky. And L is for leaning this way and that. So I use a kind of letter system. Probably. So, I just have letters. And then these are the instructions. And I call them out. And they do it with me. And then I go, show me. S is for two. So you need to show me this. I'm not doing it. You need to show me this. Show me this. Show me this. Yeah? And then also I've developed a whole lot of flashcard examples, which I've broken into lessons. But also, because we have in New Zealand, it's really important to have a bicultural lens on what we do. And I've been trying to make my lessons far more bicultural in terms of that, but not just sit up, stand up, sit down, in terms of that. So that with all the words that I had, I translated them all into Māori. And so I've made cards which have the English on one side and the Māori on the other side. And they're like pick a mix. So I get children in groups of 3, and they come up and they pick a card. And they have to go back and they have to say the Māori and the English, of what it is. And then they lay it out in a sentence with the Māori up, basically, or some of the Māori up, and then they dance the sentence in group. Yeah, so, it really makes it kind of interesting in terms of that. Yeah, so, as I say, you peki is jump, leap is tupaki, a trace is kapaki, weave is rarangi, turn is huri. So you're using the language, in a way that works, in a way that I found that isn't tokenistic, which I think is really important. And then, of course, they've got their sequence, and then I say, send one person up, and they pick another word, and they can't put it at the beginning or the end. So they have to mix up the sequence they have to do. And I go around and say, well, could you try this? How about a circle here? You're going around giving them possibilities as well. Make sense to everybody? Yeah. Hopefully online it makes sense. Right, so these lessons view learners as active agents who bring knowledges, past experiences. They've all got past experience, they've all got culture, they've all got stuff there. Ideas which impact on how they take on board the learning. It is argued that the more engaged students are in their learning, the more they are likely to retain. And I think that's a very pivotal point. So, and I have a kind of philosophy of working through the smart body. You know, students say to me, oh, the students are intermediate age, they're never going to do it. You know, what do? I said, tell them they're working through the smart body. You know, because they might be doing rugby, they might be doing, I said, you know, tell them this is not, tell them the learning you want to see is through their smart body. And it works really well because it switches the lens. You know, I say to them, don't tell them it's a dance lesson particularly because people, you know, the teacher might have told them, but I say, just tell them unless it's working through their smart body. You want to see their smart body and the smart ideas that they come up with. And I found that this works really well. And also, we want to acknowledge the smart body. You know, the smart body works without even going through the brain at times. Let go of the monkey mind, you know, and what will the smart body produce? And also, I think we want to get away from the Cartesian theory of mind and body split. You know, that whole thing about, you know, oh, you know, you go and physically work them off, and we'll do the real learning in the classroom. You know, and I think the smart body tries to kind of unpack that or undercut it, should I say? So the working processes, which I think is really important that I want to encourage in my students, is tolerate a continuous process of change, a process of trial and error. And, you know, it might be that this idea isn't the greatest for this one, and that's fine, you know, or it might be the idea is great, and it's fantastic. It doesn't mean to say that all the ideas are appropriate for the task at home, but you want them to trial and error and be able to discard, you know, in that way. Building on, go beyond the first response. That's kind of important. I usually have a kind of diagram like this. Okay, so this is the problem. This is the problem. This is the problem. This is convergent. I've got a problem, finished. This is divergent. I've tried this possibility, tried this possibility, this possibility, this possibility, and I like this one best for this task. But that's a whole different way of thinking that really needs teaching. It doesn't come easy, you know, but I think it's really important to encourage a diverse range of possibilities. Like work with others and actually listen to them. You know, you're going to have some children who are leaders and drum with their own tune, but you want, you know, children to give and take, and also those really shy ones. I think it's important. You know, sometimes I go into a classroom and I'm teaching for the teacher, and I'll give the shy ones the big leadership, and they go, oh, that child will never do it, and the child blossoms, absolutely blossoms, and really steps up, and they go, I didn't know that. So I think it's important to give children possibilities, or, you know, or you know, the kid that's in the back of the follow the leader line. You go, oh my gosh. So I go, right, hello, what's your name? Great. Can you look after all this line in front of me, please? So you empower that person, and so they're not kind of, you know, they're right. I've got to look after this. So you give them a responsibility. Sometimes with senior students, they're giggling and being stupid. I go, show me that move again. Bigger, bolder, better, brighter. So you turn the behaviour in on itself to making something bigger, bolder, brighter, and better, and they'll do it. Or show me that without giggling. Or show me that upside down. So you give them a physical challenge to put the movement into. And that works a treat as well. Follow little tricks. Try different possibilities. Get them to try different possibilities. We talked about embrace mistakes, because mistakes are often really cool. You never get, you won't get to them if you plan, but sometimes they're really good to embrace. Rise expectations, consider the unfamiliar, negotiate, give it 500%. I'm not interested in mediocrity. I want them to give it them all. You wouldn't, in a maths lesson, you wouldn't expect anything less than 500%. Why would you expect anything less than dance? Strive for excellence, whatever excellence means. But it doesn't mean blancmange and anything goes. It is excellence in relation to what they're doing. Yeah, we thought it. Okay, I'm really keen on this. I'm going to read it. It's by Kerry Chappell and Hathaway. Kerry Chappell works in the University of Exeter in England. And she's done quite a lot of work on creativity, especially with Anna Craft. And this statement really resonates with me hugely. Creativity which minds others, but does not focus on the individual forging on without care for the communal undertaking, but which heralds individual breakthroughs alongside group triumphs. It features the embodied and emergent, as well as the spoken and articulated. It nods to the familiar with all that implies. It recognises the importance of disciplined knowledge and conflict, the productive and the unproductive, the emotional aspects of creative process, empathy, reciprocity, flattening of hierarchies, shared responsibility, and functions within bottoms-up overlapping culture. This is the pièce de résistance. It is complicated and untidy, but this is surely what it is to be human. I love that last statement. It's just resonates with me completely in that way. So Russell Bishop in New Zealand, hold on, I need to say. Oh yeah, okay. So after that, so from the outset, I think it's important to have bite-sized pieces of problem-solving tasks, introducing to a range of kite shapes with movement transitions between. The introductory kite flying activities have achievable outcomes, thus creating success from the outset, which I think is really important. So it's bite-sized pieces, you're not giving them a whole thing to do, bite-sized so they actually have some achievement. They are deliberately planning for a range of movement potential through exploring the elements of dance, action, space, time, energy, and relationship. Physically embodying the learning as a primary focus. As the lesson progresses, the tasks become increasingly more experimental, manipulated by students, with them progressing towards making their own sequence. That's especially with older children. The use of scores and choreographic devices give them guidance in terms of the lesson. So with year 5, 6, I might give them a sequence which is around dart, swoop, soar, drop, rise, gallop, spin. And they would get this list. But I would have gone over some of these words with the whole class. So show me darting. Show me darting this way. Show me darting this way. Show me darting up. Show me darting down. So you give them possibilities. It's not always show me darting with your elbow. Show me darting with your elbow back that way. So that you get a whole myriad of possibilities, not just that first one response. You just have to be careful with drop. It's a slow drop. I might get them to drop for 8 counts down to the ground. In that way, and then they're in pairs, and they organise that movement together as a sequence in pairs. And then what they do, they've got their movement, they've organised it, and then another pair And we have a kite flying. So they fly over one another, under one another, each doing their sequence. It's wonderful. Chaos, but wonderful. Okay, so Russell Bishop, who asserts that pedagogy recognises that all people who are involved in their learning and teaching process are participants who have meaningful experiences, valid concerns, and legitimate questions. And I think that's really important. Therefore, implementing the strategy of building an inclusive, culturally responsive dance environment is essential. So these are some Māori Matariki kites flying here. So basically, how can I support the students in the kite flying choreographed endeavours? It's important to constantly reflect, is the task too open-ended? That students are flying anxiously in a sea of too much choice and crash landed into a heap. All right, within these lessons, a range of teaching strategies, from teacher-led to working in groups, to working in pairs, to problem solving and structured improvisation. These support the learners in creative endeavours and go from teacher-led more to student-driven to build confidence. And I think it's really important that you don't give such open-ended tasks, because they just, you know, some children who are drum to their own tune will be fine with that. Other children just, you know, it'll be chaos. Okay, so in conclusion, all these different parameters are woven together in an elaborate kite tale in order to celebrate and journey through the successes of kite dancing, swooping, darting, rising and dipping high in the sky, as well as embracing the challenges of taking off and landing. I hope you have flown out the window the ups and downs of kite flying and all the exciting possibilities it engenders young people. Each learner brings a unique personality together with a wealth of cultural knowledge, experience, and to the learning process. Awaiting us, there is so much diversity, such a delight in exploring our world and trying new possibilities, if only we offered them the opportunities.
I'm going to come down and join you.
And those are some references that will be up there in terms of that.
We'll stop sharing and we can come and join.
Did you want to take a photo of that? Let's go back to that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. That's the one you wanted, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Right, Sue and I are going to come down to the front here and join for some conversation. If you've got any questions?
Yeah, if you want to chip in, please do.
She'll probably let us know if there's any to share from online.
Yeah. Hopefully people online were in there. Hi, people online.
Sue, there's so many connections between the way dance sits in the curriculum in New Zealand to, I think, how it sits in the curriculum for us, and similarities in how we're kind of approaching things in that sort of problem-solving way of thinking. And when we're working with teachers, whether that's student teachers or teachers already in the profession, quite often there's so much unknown. There's a lack of that embodiment of experience of trying it out for yourself, and there's a lack of confidence in how to go about it. So when you're working with student teachers or teachers already in the profession, do you, as well as the sessions that you run, give them strategies for when they go off out into the work with their own learners?
Yes, but I also give them kind of solid plans that they can tweak, or that there's enough fluidity in them. So that, right. But I also talk to them a list about, things like if the child's slightly off task, as I said, show me it bigger, bolder, brighter, better. Shift your front so that, Tamihuna's not always in the front. They're in the back or the side or anything else like that. Stop, look, and listen. Turn your music down when you're talking to them. Bring them in, because otherwise they're at the back going, you've got no, bring them in, push them out. It's a whole different pedagogy to teaching a classroom. They're not behind desk or in groups or anything else like that. So you have to kind of give them those kind of strategies to help them in that way. Line them up outside the hall. Don't let them go in the hall, because then it's mayhem, and you've got quarter now to try and get them back in again. No socks, because they slip and it becomes a skating rink, and that's so. But line them up, bring them in, just talk to them about this is a dance classroom, and the same kind of strategies that maybe the teacher does in the classroom they should do here. In that way, and have the same expectations. Sometimes people have lesser expectations in dance, and they should have the same, in my opinion. Was that kind of
absolutely
question? And just empower them to celebrate those children's learning through the smart body. You'll see children that are maybe really quiet in the classroom blossom. Children whose English is a second language suddenly have a whole vocabulary that they can use. Those rumpy-tumpy people that are all over the place are using their ideas physically, and you see them, and I'm really clear that dance is for everybody, not just, you get sometimes people say, well, the lesser ability is great for them. I'm going, well, those other children who are, more able need it just as much. They need to be out of their heads and in their bodies, so to speak. So it's finding ways to give a pedagogy that, and it's trial and error. Have a go. So and also I also say to my students, which I would say to any teachers, it's only you and your class, and you know your class far better than I do. I might know dance content, but you know your class really well, and the other thing is you wouldn't dream of stepping up to a maths lesson that you didn't know about. You would have done the homework for it. Why would you do that for dance?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm completely,
we were talking earlier about all the really wonderful outcomes that come from that exploration with dance, the problem solving, the collaboration, the finding like lots of different solutions that you can talk about and justify why you think this one might be better, or you can take on board someone else's advice and to make things even better. When we look at our curriculum here in Scotland, none of that's reflected in what we see. If you're looking at the outcomes that we have to work towards, there's not enough celebrated in the language, if you like, that the documents give us.
It sort of would be there in our curriculum, but often dance, sometimes uses window dressing. We've got a parents' evening coming up because you do a little dance, and there's there's value in that. That's fine. And I'm particularly think it's important if it's come directly out of class time. If it's come out of class teaching, show it to parents. This is what we did, and talk to them. This is what the children did. This is the problem solving they did. This is the kind of thinking they did. I think we have to educate everybody about what's going on. It's not just you do anything. There's loads of decision making. There's loads of stepping outside the square. There's loads of, I'm not sure on that, risk taking and things like that. And I think what we need to do is kind of educate people that, dance is around the smart body, but there's all these kind of underpinnings happening, on all these kind of complex mechanisms happening.
And when you work with student primary teachers, is that part of the message you try to get across in those? Because do you have people coming with like misconceptions about what this whole dance thing is going to be about?
Yeah, you know, they come in their second year and they probably might have heard a little bit about Sue. You know, didn't take any truck, so don't worry about that one. But, you know, after the first lesson, I do the first lesson, it's lots of participation, it's lots of introductory stuff around the elements of dance, action, space, time, relationships. And it's lots of, and quick things and swap partners. So by the end, they probably know quite a lot of the group because they may not have known them beforehand. And then I sit them down at the end and go, how is that different? And they all put their hands up and go, it was really different. Because they expect me to stand up there and teach them a sequence. If they can't do it, they'll feel stupid. That's the expectation, especially if it's a private school dance. I don't know why. I've been there for 18 years, you know, but that's the expectation. And you break that down so that you want them to try. You want them to have possibilities. And so the first two sessions are around the elements of dance. And then I introduce the dance plan that they all have to go out and teach because they're all in a custom school and they go 1 day a week. And so they have to teach that by themselves to the class. There's not in pairs or anything else like that. So they've got the lesson plan. I expect them to embody it. I say to them, look, if there's a sequence, you've got to learn it. You know, go home and learn it in the loo or in the bathroom. I don't care where you learn it, but you learn it. You go out and you know what you're doing. I said, if you're scared about it, get a teacher pupil at lunchtime so that they can be your right-hand help. And so that's what they do. And then the fourth session, excuse me, is partly the lesson going over, and then I teach salsa, which is a Samoan dance. So someone does, because I believe that, I'm not going to teach all career. I think that dancers, it's important also to embrace a dance style. And I know enough about salsa, I call it salsa inspired, to be able to teach it. And it's great. They really like it. It's a very different methodology. It's I do, they copy. So each lesson introduces them to different methodologies that you would teach dance with. And then the fifth lesson I do around Māori. We do, it's like a line dance Māori. So we do this, and then we talk about it, and I teach it completely in Māori. And then we have Māori patterns, and they add those Māori patterns on. And I encourage anybody who's Māori in the class to take leadership within their group, and a lot of them do. It's great. And that way. And then the last lesson is a flash mob. I do old school hip hop flash mob. And it's our woe to go. We start the idea, we finish it in 2 hours, and all perform it. Yay! So that's kind of hopefully that gives you a snap. I only get 12 hours with them. It's not nearly enough. And then they can go on and take a 200 level paper, which is completely dance, and those people will teach it. Those people who do the 12 hours, maybe not, because it's in their second year. By the time they've gone to the end of their third year, unless it's important to them, they won't teach it. And also they get in schools where it's not taught. We have, I don't know whether you have this program here, we have what's called Jump Jam. They buy the CD and they put it on, and it's choreographed routines, but nobody cares. Everybody's saying, and it's a form of exercise, and then they tick that off as dance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things that are coming to mind there, but the embodying of it as the teacher is so important, because you get that understanding of it all by doing it yourself and then working with your learners. But I think
or sometimes I'll teach a lesson, I won't do any. I'll just facilitate it and say to them, you don't have to stick your leg around your neck. You don't have to be in my class to stick your leg around your neck. Look, I'm going to facilitate this by talking and moving and being around and not necessarily demonstrating. They all go, oh. you know, so it's different pedagogies.
It's interesting.
You've got 2 minutes, is it?
No, I've got a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah, great. Okay.
This one relates to, this is from Julie Somerville.
Yeah.
It relates to what you were saying just a second
Hi,
ago.
Julie.
So, how do you keep the momentum going to encourage teachers to continue teaching dance in their classrooms? Our school has begun educating teachers on how to include dance, but I worry that as the year continues, this momentum may decrease and other curriculum areas will take over again.
Yeah, maybe it's initially to start with blocks of dance, and maybe it's a block of dance for dance sake, and then maybe the next block is dance and maths. Yeah, and maybe the next block is dance and social studies, or, you know, dance around the world. So you can have blocks that kind of change, or, you know, still have dance as focus, but, you know, different ways. Or maybe there is a, you know, community evening coming up, and you want them to learn how to choreograph to show. Or it could be a grandparents' day where you're thinking about what was their dances in their time, and the children learn all about that. You know, so I think, you know, it's trying to go, what is bite size and what is, you know, maybe 6 weeks, and then maybe you leave it for a little while, and then you carry on. The next one is related and cross curricular. Yeah, or you could find the visual art teacher, and what could you do in relation to that? So, you know, once upon a time I was a purist and said, yeah, we do dance, but I just don't think that's a reality really anymore. You know, it would be if I had my classroom, but, you know, it's kind of like, you know, what can you do to block it and make it? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that any kind of dance, creative movement is valued, and I think the more we can show different ways that dance can be dance for dance, but it can be dance for maths, it can be used in so many different ways, and I think the more we get that message out, the more we can
also tell her, find out who's dancers in their community, who could come in from the community to share a dance, or in their class, who's got a whole lot of different community dancers. What you could have a whole unit on class dancers from, you know, from the kids. You know, what's there in their community, what's there in their classroom.
That's a great answer. I wish I had been in a classroom like that.
Yeah. So, you know.
And another one from online from Bethany Whiteside, who says thank you. I feel we often focus on the challenges of advocating for dance teaching within primary education and the practicalities, at least here in the UK. Could you share what hopefully positive developments you have seen in dance in primary education in New Zealand or further afield over the last decade or so? She says she's thinking of culture and landscape policy, etc.
No. We're still suffering from 10 years of numeracy and literacy, although we have a huge drive now as a bicultural nation to bring on Māori, you know, as a bicultural nation. So there is a big drive to upskill ourselves in terms of Māori. You know, we have huge kapahaka competitions in schools. We have kapahaka clubs. We have immersion places where children can learn te reo right through. They're speaking Māori right through from primary to secondary to, you know. So we do have that kind of resurgence. I'm not sure that we have a lot. We have now getting our subject association and dance more powerful, because you've got quite a good one here anyway. You know, so we're sort of changing, but unfortunately we have a new curriculum which isn't in yet, and it's very much arts pedagogy, which I'm not in favour of at all. You know, it doesn't mention any 4 disciplines. It's very much, you know, arts, the mulch, in my opinion.
Yeah, very generic.
Very generic,
Statements
very
that can
just
apply
kind
to-
of, yeah, anything goes. Don't talk to me about it. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure that helps you. But there are pockets. You know, I think anywhere in the world, you know, it really depends if your principals and your heads are really are supportive, you can make it fly. Otherwise, you kind of, you're a bit isolated in terms of that. But I think it's you in your classroom and you can make it fly. It's you in your classroom. And I think you have to have some really good statements for parents. Smart body, they're learning these skills so that you've got them, if parents challenge you, you've got them right there in that way.
Yeah.
And especially so, boys don't dance, I don't want my son to dance. What you can do about that one, you just go, well, rugby's a dance, or, a couple of huckers a dance, whatever. I think you have to have a few things up your sleeve.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that way of being able to talk about the different benefits, if you like, of dance.
Yeah, totally.
So being able to articulate, and it answers the question before a little bit as well, but being able to articulate all the different skills development that's happening, all the different ways we've maybe learned about a power station through our creative dance exploration, so in linking it to other areas of learning, which doesn't always have to do, it can just be dance for dance. But yeah.
And I've got another idea as well. Have rich notice boards in your classroom with all sorts of styles of dance on, from strong models to all sorts of ideas in your classroom if you're doing it, because it just makes a big difference. Children may say, I don't know anything, but they do know a lot. But if you have really strong, it could be a hip hop person, it could be the ballet person, it could be Billy Elliot, could be, whatever. You've got this whole notice board of a whole range of cultures dancing and a whole range of body types dancing. It's really important.
Lots of thank yous from online. And Bethany says, that does help. Thank you. It's interesting that certain individuals, their personality and decision making comes up as a key factor over and over again in enabling change.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for people like you.
Thank you. Are there any questions you people have?
I'm just thank you ever so much. It's very, very inspiring, and I think probably that when you teach student teachers, and you talked about at the beginning the first lesson, the first two lessons, talking about the general principles of dance. Do you then go on to teach them how to apply that?
Oh yes, but it's already in the session.
Right.
All my sessions are practically applied.
So in terms of, if you're thinking about kites, but you can use these principles then to have different contexts, I suppose. Yeah,
you could use them. I kind of go, well, I've done some lessons with letters, and it doesn't work with all letters, but I've done it with S, and I've just gone through the dictionary and pulled out all the action words for S, and then I put them into action, spatial, S is square, whatever, spatial. So action, spatial, dynamic, which is slow, swooping, squiggly, whatever, and relationship. And then I've broken them all up and I've built lessons from them. So I've shared all those kind of principles with them in that way. Yeah, so all my lessons are underpinned by the elements of dance, but also layered on top of that are choreographic principles like motive and development, or like canon, or anything like that. Especially for our older children, you want to, I usually have a recipe, that they've got their sequence, and then they have to develop it this way. And they can develop however they like, but they've got to have all these developments in it. And the other thing is that I show videos. I show videos of really, of artistic dance for them. I show, I don't tend to show children dancing, but I would show a really good salsa. Sometimes I would show children dancing, and I would show, groups. And if there's a contemporary dance, I'll show them. So I'll show them examples so they get to view and respond, or they get to see stuff, which is, which then expands them. There's some great stuff on YouTube. There's some really good clips that you can show them, and you expand their horizons of dance.
And I think that's a way in for teachers as well, to show some dance and talk about dance.
Yeah.
It's not as scary as a first step. I think, to be able to watch and talk. Well,
There's really good, there's a couple of really good videos that I've got online that explain the elements of dance, and they go through action space dynamics and the people who's doing it. So have a look, the elements of dance. It's on YouTube, or just dial it up and go the elements of dance. So there's really good, and they show it and they go through it. You go, oh, that's so much better than me going blah 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 blah.
that's great.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. On your PowerPoint, you said there was a thing about seeing learners as active learners, and they bring their knowledge and experience to the work. I want to ask, how do you, if you're working with a diverse range of different cultures in the room, it's coming from like Indian culture, Indian dance, so like, how do you bring that into your practice when they bring different cultures? Do you use together cultures within your work?
Sometimes, but sometimes I'm very aware that I don't want to appropriate. It's kind of a fun night. But whatever moves children bring in, I'll encourage that. Oh, that's an interesting move. Or sometimes I've had students who've taught half our class us an Indian dance or something else like that. So I welcome that in that way. But we're all our bodies are mapped with whatever we've done, whichever culture we come from. So it does come out, in that way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
That's a really interesting one as well, Sanjay, because I think when we use language like traveling across the room or turning around or jumping, that lends itself, it's quite open to so many different possibilities. So if you do have a ballet person who wants to do a pirouette and a jeté, well, they can do, or whatever
And if you
experiences.
have somebody to travel across the room and they're wheelchair user,
Absolutely.
they're gone, especially the electric wheelchair user. They're first across the room before anybody else is there.
Well, I think we need to wrap up. So I think we need to wrap up our time together. Thanks for joining me here, and thanks for joining us in the room and online.
If anybody has any other questions, they can just feed them through to you, and you can email them to me and I'll answer them for you.
Thanks, Sue. I just need to let you know that the full schedule for the exchange talks for this term will be announced shortly. So keep an eye out for that. The next talk, however, is on the 11th of November, and that's with Karen Macaulay here in person. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much, everybody, for being online and for being here. It's wonderful.